The finale of Landman Season 2 is upon us, and after a somewhat underwhelming season, the penultimate episode gave us some standout moments that I feel we were all waiting for. However, following that explosive ending, the trailer for the finale has now been released, and it looks like it could well be a big one. Will there be any character deaths? Will Cooper go to jail? And what kind of manipulative plan is Dan Morrell cooking up for Tommy Norris? Well, I wanted to break down the trailer and also give my theories and predictions on how I think Season 2 could end. So let's get into it. Here is Landman Season 2 Episode 10 Trailer Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So the trailer for the episode opened up where many of the episodes of the season have actually begun, with TL sitting in the garden looking out at the blazing sun and the horses on the field. This time though, it was Tommy sitting on the chair with his father. Tommy said, "I got fired yesterday," and TL responded and said, "For what?" This will be the question that will be constantly going round. He was fired for obviously not having the desire to chase the rush and the buzz that Cami wanted her president to have. The buzz that Cami felt Monty had when he built the company. With the firing being something that was spoken about within the first few seconds of the trailer, it makes me think that the decision around firing him is going to be at the heart of the finale. Was it the right decision, and are they going to find the gas in Louisiana, or are they going to miscalculate and it turn out to be a $400 million mistake, which is actually going to put Tommy out of the firing line when everything comes crumbling down? We could potentially get that answer in the next episode, or it'll be something that'll bleed into Season 3. Tommy was spilling poison into the ear of Dan Morrell later on in the trailer and making Dan turn against her, so I feel Cami's world might just fall apart. Cami is acting all confident and like she knows what she's doing, when in reality she's just trusting her gut, so I feel like it's all going to go terribly wrong for her. The next part of the trailer then saw Cooper and Ariana sat down inside of a diner, and the injuries that Ariana sustained from the attack were made a focus of to show that it's going to be at the heart of the core of the conversation. Cooper said, "We need to have a conversation." I have a feeling that they're going to need to talk about the potential consequences that Cooper could be facing, and I reckon this is going to be because the guy that Cooper beat up in defense for Ariana could potentially be within an inch of his life, or maybe even die because of it. This would mean that Cooper could be looking at a manslaughter charge or even murder. This whole season has been about Cooper rebuilding his life, trying to improve his position at work, his financial situation, and even getting engaged to Ariana because he wanted to show her just how much he loved her. However now, with him protecting her, it could undo all of the hard work that he's put in, and it might cause him to go to jail for the majority of his life. After this, we then saw the owner of the cafe saying to Ariana, "If you know a good lawyer, you call him." In the penultimate episode, we saw that the attack on Ariana and also the attack that Cooper did was captured on the surveillance footage. And with it looking like Cooper went into overkill mode, rather than just neutralizing the situation, that might be why Cooper's got the law on his tail and he could be facing a murder charge. So I think this will also be something that's going to get a key focus. As the conversation was taking place between them, there were some police officers there, so I imagine they're most likely going to be looking at the surveillance footage, and that's why he's going to be telling Ariana to get a good lawyer, because he'd have seen what Cooper did, and he might even seen the officer's reaction. This was then when we saw Ariana choose Rebecca to be her lawyer. She called her on the phone and said, "I need you." This isn't the area of law that Rebecca specifically operates in, but we know that she can hold her own in the legal battlefield, especially when up against some fierce sharks. So I think Rebecca is going to be standing in as Cooper's lawyer and be trying to get him off the charge. This could actually be laying down the foundations for a wider plot in Season 3 and something that's going to be ongoing. Now, I like the idea of Rebecca taking on this role because it feels like for most of this season, she's not been the tough-as-nail lawyer that we saw in the boardroom in Season 1. So this would inject some of that personality that made the character so good in Season 1 back in the finale. I hope so anyway, because I don't want to see her pining over Charlie Newsom any more than what we have. It's getting a bit boring now. The next part of the trailer was then centered around Dan Morrell as he met with Tommy inside of his office. Dan Morrell said, "I made a pretty sizable investment with Cami," and Tommy said, "An investment you'll lose." I think this is going to show a completely different side to Tommy. I think we're going to see him going behind Cami's back and potentially looking to go into partnership with Dan Morrell himself. She fired him because he didn't have the rush within him anymore, when in reality, he knew that the outcome of the Louisiana project wasn't necessarily going to end well, and that could still be the case. So instead, I think he's going to look to prove Cami wrong by potentially going into business with Dan Morrell and showing Cami that he does have a hunger for the rush and the buzz when the odds are in his favour. The oil business isn't Vegas in Tommy's eyes, and I'd love to see the look on Cami's face when she finds out that Morrell could potentially now be working with Tommy. If Cami's decision to do the Louisiana rig does go wrong, it'll be a costly mistake that could cause the very company that Monty set up that she was trying to protect to go in the complete opposite direction, and it could all be destroyed. All because she was acting on pure instinct and taking risks instead of knowledge and intelligence and listening to advice. Dan Morrell said to Tommy, "If you lose this, the thing you love most, that's the first thing I'll take." As he said this, it cut to Angela, Ainsley, Cooper and TL, so it showed us that Morrell would go after Tommy's family if the deal that he's made with him causes him to lose out on his investment in any way whatsoever. In this instance, Morrell will have two risks taking place at the same time, hence why there's going to be a lot of jeopardy involved. So it's safe to say the rush that Cami said Tommy doesn't have is most definitely going to be present. Cami turned her back on Tommy, and Tommy strikes me as the person that would now show no loyalty to her whatsoever, even if it means her demise. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens between them. The final shot that we then had in the trailer was Tommy walking down the street, and there was a look on his face where he looked quite concerned at what was happening. So I feel like he's going to be feeling the weight of Dan Morrell breathing down his shoulders and the pressure that he's put upon himself. He'll most likely also be aware of the fact that Cooper could be facing a murder charge and might end up in jail, so that's not going to be making him feel any less nervous. Then with that, the trailer came to a close. The music that was underpinning the entirety of the trailer was filled with tension and dread, so it shows that that feeling is going to be like a cloud over the entirety of the episode. Outside of the trailer, a few other things that I think will most likely happen is there's obviously going to be a focus on Angela and Ainsley in some way. This season, they've sadly dominated the show, and it wouldn't surprise me if in the finale, Ainsley ends up having more drama at college like what we saw in the penultimate episode, and Angela needs to save the day again. Maybe Angela is also going to be worried because Tommy got fired and now she's not going to be able to go on the spending sprees like she usually does. And also, I feel like we'll most likely see the old folk being brought back into it as a side thing again, because what would be the point in having them throughout most of the first half of the season if we don't ever see them again? As I've said throughout the entirety of Season 2, I do think it's a shame that this season went in the direction that it did. Season 1 of Landman was so strong because it was a show that was so different to everything that was out there, and it was also focused on an industry that was quite interesting to get a glimpse into. But sadly, this season of the show just morphed it into a soap opera and replaced the action, the cartel, and everything that just made it cool with diplomatic reasoning, deals, and Angela and Ainsley taking up way too much screen time. I'm hopeful the finale will redeem the show and also lay down the foundations for a really strong Season 3. Let's just wait and see. So, there you have it, Landman Season 2 Episode 10 Trailer Explained.